So I wonder, though, in Pennsylvania, with you've said people are rightfully suspicious. We did talk a little bit before the show, but I'm wondering if you think there was fraud or if you've seen anything.
Well, I will say that there are definite anomalies. There are definite irregularities. And just today, I saw what looks to be pretty compelling evidence of voter fraud, a combination of voter fraud and ballot harvesting in nursing homes in Beaver County. Now, Beaver County is 100% in my district. And we noticed, it was the Republican chairman of Beaver County. His name's Jim Christiana, along with the sheriff, Tony Guy, two great people. They noticed that there were a lot of people in nursing homes in Beaver County that had requested a ballot, filled out a ballot, and returned it all on the same day. Now, that was a sort of an anomaly.
Wait. How do you request it and then get it on the same day?
Well,
they got to send it to you?
I mean, maybe somebody delivers the ballots and people fill it out. But
but like if you request it, did someone just run over, you make a phone call, I'd like a ballot, and they run and give it to you?
Yes. Yes. And so that was suspicious. In fact, that's in the Beaver County Times. You can look it up. You can find the article where Jim Christiana talks about the nursing homes, and so he did a sort of freedom of information request and requested 2,000 ballots from those nursing homes. And what he found immediately, Tim, was that all of the signatures match. All of the handwriting was the same. And of the 4 nursing home facilities that he looked at, now that the handwriting matches were in batches, but these were all union-controlled nursing homes where the signatures and the handwriting was exactly the same.
Wow.
And I've seen it with my own 2 eyes today, with Tony Guy and Jim Christiana. They showed this stuff to me today. And so, look, I'm not saying that is fraud, but I can tell you that we're going to pass that to the U.S. Attorney of the Western District of Pennsylvania, and we're going to let them decide. We're going to let them do an investigation. Is it fraud? Is it definitively fraud? I mean, without an investigation having been conducted, I mean, I'll be careful with my words. I don't know, but
so I pulled it up. It's Times Online, and it says Beaver County nursing homes. Christiana questions mail-in ballots.
That's it.
They mentioned there's 2,000 mail-in ballots following a strange pattern, questionable patterns. These patterns require the next step to be a review of the outside envelopes to see if there's any forgery.
And that's what we looked at. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the 2,000 ballots that I saw today. The handwriting is the same. There are forgeries of signatures.
So that sounds like harvesting.
And I'm telling you right now, there's no question in my mind. It's I've seen the handwriting. I've seen the signatures. There's no question in my mind that what Jim Christiana has he's reviewed those 2,000 ballots. He's looked at them.
So who is he? He's a Republican?
He's the Republican chairman of Beaver County, and along with Tony Guy, who is the sheriff out in Beaver County.
So what have you done with the evidence?
He called me. Jim called me about this last night. Told me about it last night. Showed me the evidence this morning, and what Jim is going to do, along with Tony, again, who is the sheriff, is, in all likelihood, turn the evidence over to the district attorney, Dave Lozier, out in Beaver County, another great human being, and they're going to pass that information to the U.S. attorney in the Western District of Pennsylvania.
So to the feds?
Yes, absolutely,
wow.
Absolutely. Because look, again, if we aren't talking about this stuff right now, it never comes to light, and the likelihood of it happening again is very high.
Close to 1.
The people have a right to know if this stuff is happening. Is it? Can I say on the show with 100% certainty that that's voter fraud? No, because there's not been an investigation done, but I'm a human being that can put 2 and 2 together. All the handwriting is exactly the same.
And you've seen them.
I've seen them. So,
and it's going to U.S. attorneys.
Yes.
All right, well, my concern is I don't know if they're going to do anything. I don't trust them.
Well, so Dave Lozier and the district attorney, the district attorney Dave Lozier, and then the U.S. attorney, they're both great human beings. I trust them. Scott Brady is the U.S. attorney in Western Pennsylvania. They're good people.
All right.
I trust them. But here's the deal. A criminal investigation of something like this is going to take a long time. Will that impact the outcome of the 2020 election? I don't know.
And it's only 2,000 votes.
Well, but there are something like 8, 9 total. We only looked at 4. There are 8 or 9 total nursing homes And that's just in and around the Beaver County area. And that doesn't even count Allegheny County, which is where I would say probably 80% of the vote comes from in PA 17. So what this could do, like, look, if we start expanding an investigation into other nursing home facilities, how many votes would that mean? Now, I don't know if that's going to be enough to affect a presidential, right? But it will affect down ballot congressional races and down ballot state House and Senate races. Absolutely. So should we look into that? Absolutely. We absolutely should.
I would imagine if you find widespread fraud or harvesting, which is, I believe, would still be fraud, then at a certain point, you're not going to have the time to actually investigate every single nursing home. You'd have to just, I don't know, cancel the election. Well, because if you're finding widespread fraud, here's the problem, okay? To clarify, because I know the left is going to be like, how dare you? There's no solution. There's none. There is no solution to this problem. We have reached an impasse where no matter what you do, you're going to set off tens of millions of people. It sounds like, based on what I read about your lawsuit, it sounds like you're correct. I'm not a lawyer, but based on the stories that I read and going through it, your lawsuit about the constitutionality of mail-in ballots, yeah, sounds like they couldn't do that. Sounds like they knew they couldn't and they tried changing some words to get around it. And that creates a problem where now the Democrats are saying we won, and you're saying this is the Republicans' fault. The Republicans passed this Act 77.
Yeah,
and it's screwing over.
I'm careful to say it's their fault because, again, Tim, I mean, there are laws that are passed that are unconstitutional that are on the books for years, and we don't realize that they're unconstitutional for years later. So my point is, this is how our system of government is intended to work. Sometimes we don't always know if a law is unconstitutional or not, and that's why we rely on the courts.
I don't mean like it was intentional, but it is their fault. If they passed a law that was unconstitutional and it causes problems with the election where it's got to be thrown out, ballots are
but let's not let Governor Wolf off the hook. He's certainly. And how about the Attorney General?
Right, good point.
Like the Attorney General, who is also a Democrat, Josh Shapiro, should have probably caught it before it was passed.
Yeah,
but do you know why they didn't? And do you know why? And their attacks on me, which they've all, like every Democrat in the state of Pennsylvania. And believe me, they've fired up their base. I've had death threats. My attorneys have had death threats about this.
Wow.
It is not about throwing out 2.5 million mail-in ballots. The people who cast a mail-in ballot and thought that the system was legitimate and that Act 77 was constitutional. This is not about that for me. As much as the media would want to write those sensationalist headlines and the left is attacking me for wanting to throw out those ballots, that's not true. But you'll notice in their attacks, they're not addressing whether Act 77 is constitutional.
So it sounds like we're at a point where these ballots are no good. The election was no good in a lot of ways. There's potential even fraud. We pulled up the Beaver County Times, and it sounds like there's strange goings on. Here's the way I describe it. You're walking down the street, and you see a building, smoke alarm's going off. All right, what does a smoke alarm mean? Usually means there's a fire. You don't see smoke, you just hear the alarm. So we call 911 figuratively, and we say, hey, we're hearing an alarm go off. And the response we get is, do you have evidence of widespread fire? No, but the smoke alarm is going off. And they're like, well, we only come out if there's evidence of widespread. No. When I hear the smoke alarm, you come out to check if there's fire. That's a good analogy. If we're seeing these anomalies, these signatures, these stacks of ballots, the FBI has to come in, or whichever agency, and actually launch an investigation. And they better do it PDQ because we have deadlines. And then the problem is if they don't, and now we're getting reports we're going to have these hearings in 3 states. If these hearings, we actually get hard evidence presented, they're going to go over affidavits. And I'll tell you, during the Michigan certification hearings, we had a guy call and rattle off a list of evidence of impropriety and potential fraud, and they ignore it. What's going to happen then if you don't investigate is all the legal challenges saying you were made aware of this, you didn't investigate, we want an injunction. And then what if the courts, this is what people need to realize is that courts are humans. And so even if something is technically correct, they might not allow it. And it comes down to the judge. So there was one of the cases Trump lost. The judge basically said, you're right, but we're not going to disenfranchise. So in the future, we'll just do it better.
That's called prospective. And I'm not a lawyer, but that's called prospective relief. And so that could be one of the scenarios in this lawsuit with Act 77. They could say, yeah, 2020 was FUBAR, right? But let's do it better in the future. And
we can't do it.
The thing is that I would be okay with that.
But the country wouldn't. 73 74 million Trump voters would say no. If they say right now in any capacity that this was unconstitutional, but we're going to let it stand, it's going to be, I don't even know how to describe what's going to happen.
Well, here's the thing. I don't see, I don't see a court. Well, I just don't know. I don't know how. We've asked the court for help with a remedy, right? Because that's the way our system of government is supposed to function. We hope that they step in and grant some sort of relief. Now, the governor was not. We weren't anticipating him certifying the results of the election today. He did it just hours before we were supposed to be heard. Heard in a, not a hearing or a court. It was like a telephone phone conference thing or whatever. Again, I'm not
Zoom
a lawyer.
Call.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they do. I'm not a lawyer, but he certified the results of the election, and during that time, the electronic filing system for the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania was down. So, like, what do you do? Like,
I feel like you've always got to err on the side of some kind of remedy against some kind of system against impropriety or malicious intent. If there's a certification process and the electronic filing system goes down, then the court should be like, nope, no certification, because you can't have emergency court filings being blocked or unable to process while someone's slipping through some major
Yeah, and Tim, we weren't asking the court to block certification to overturn an election. We were blocking certification so that it would give us time to make our argument, right? And again, we were hoping to have time to make an argument to the court and have them give some sort of decision or remedy as to what to do with Act 77, because again, we believe that it disenfranchised all voters, not just people that mailed in a ballot. Disenfranchised all voters.
This is going to have serious impacts on the presidential election itself.
We'll see. I mean, like you said, it's explosive, right?
Yep.
And courts are comprised of human beings, and I just don't know. But I will tell you this, that I believe that Act 77 is unconstitutional, and on the merits, I don't think that anyone can deny that. It just is. You can't change the entire electoral system in Pennsylvania without a constitutional amendment. That simply was not done.
I mean, for a lot of other states, I would imagine it's the same thing or similar in some capacity. I was, like I was mentioning earlier, surprised to when they were making all these sweeping changes, to hear that courts were agreeing with it. 11th hour election changes. And of course, Democrats were very much okay with it. And you mentioned this to me on the show when you came in the first time, that, well, they believe it's going to help them win.
Absolutely. If Democrats, believe me when I tell you, if Democrats thought that mail-in balloting would disproportionately help Republicans, they would be so against it.
Of course.
And so here's the interesting thing about that. The PA state constitution, there is like an emergency provision where the governor and the legislature could invoke some sort of emergency power to overhaul an election system in the middle of an emergency like a pandemic to keep people safe, but they didn't do it. So why?
You know what's crazy to me is watching in Michigan. Do you see what happened with Michigan certification?
Oh, with
first you had Wayne County.
Yeah.
Where
Republicans got they didn't want to certify, and then there were
death threats, family threats,
and then they certified.
One dude said, your kids probably go to this school.
Yeah,
it's like right away someone's going to be like, please stop, I'll just sign whatever you want. And then after the fact, they signed sworn affidavits saying they rescind their votes, and they were like, too bad, it's too late, you can't do anything. And it's the stupidest thing, because what people need to understand is that we don't live in a computer. We're a country composed of people. Meaning, if there's here's what people don't get about like contracts, right? They have this movie-esque understanding of how contract law works, where it's like, if I take out a piece of paper and says Sean Parnell signs over all of his assets to me, sign it, it's not going to hold up in court. The judge is going to be like, get out of here. Like, that's not a real contract, But people think, oh, but you signed it. So when it comes to, what happened in Michigan, you could have a hearing and the judge can be like, no, it's a good point. They were getting threats. We can clearly see the threats. That's not a legitimate document. You can't put someone under duress to get them to sign a document and have it be upheld in court, especially when you can clearly prove it. The crazy thing about Michigan is that I was watching the actual hearing they had when it went to the State Board of Canvassers. And one of these guys, his name is like Aaron Van Langeveld, I think his name is, was just absolutely ignoring the evidence presented, or I should say this, claims of evidence that people were calling in saying, here's a document, here's the individual, here's the law. And no matter what anyone said to him, he was like, I have to certify. Nope. One guy read him the law like 10 times. And he's like, it says for any necessary purpose to certify, meaning to ascertain the truthfulness, you can adjourn. He goes, I can't do that. Sorry. So that it's crazy to me watching this Republican be like, nope, there's literally nothing you can say. I'll ignore the law. I will ignore what's presented to us, and I'm just going to do it. And now they're certifying in Michigan. And then you have in Pennsylvania with you. I was surprised certification even happened because I was like tracking. I'm like,
I was on the phone with my attorney when it happened. I'm like, oh, they just certified Pennsylvania. He's like, what?
Yeah.
So and they did it because they knew that once it was certified, it'd be a little bit more difficult for us to proceed with the case on an emergency basis.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.